Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo, who has been the president of Equatorial Guinea for close to 45 years, is the second longest serving non-royal head of state in the world. He rose to power after overthrowing and killing his uncle, Francisco Marcias Nguema, who historians believe is the most brutal dictator the world has ever seen. Marcias Nguema was a drug addict, and his drug-induced paranoia made him engage in barbaric atrocities characteristic of a psychopath. Some of these atrocities include killing all the former boyfriends of his mistresses and anyone suspected of admiring his mistresses. Marcias Nguema was an illiterate. Even though he could read, he could not write, and his low intellect made him develop a deep hatred for intellectuals. At one time, he sentenced all people who wore glasses to death, as he believed glasses were worn by intellectuals who pretended to be smarter than everyone. He even banned the use of the national language version of the word intellectual. Teachers and other educated professionals were killed, and the rest sought refuge in neighboring countries. The result was the collapse of the education system and a brain drain that crippled the economy. He eventually banned schools and education after repressing tribal groups that he perceived to be highly educated. At one point, Marcias Nguema became sick and needed medical attention. He realized that all the doctors had left the country and taken refuge in neighboring countries. One of the doctors, residing in Cameroon, was called by his family to examine the president. The doctor was shot dead immediately after the medical process. Nguema was that brutal. Marcias Nguema not only killed ordinary citizens, but also high-ranking government officials. At one time, he killed all members of his cabinet. The most outstanding assassination was that of the central bank governor. After killing him, he took all the country's money and hid it in his bedroom. He later took the money to his village and buried it under the ground, most of it rot. Marcias Nguema also destroyed the country's infrastructure. When the citizens started fleeing the country via road, he dug and completely rendered impassable the only highway that connected the country with other countries. He also destroyed boats to stop people from fleeing via sea. When the country's energy sector started struggling due to inefficiencies, Marcias Nguema cut off nationwide electricity supply. He claimed that electricity was not a necessity. As a result, the only place with power countrywide was his palace, which used a generator. Other pyscopathic acts by Marcias Nguema include 1. Banning the Catholic Church, declaring himself God, and forcing people to worship him. 2nd, holding 20 out of 60 parliamentary seats. 3rd, holding half of all the posts in his government. 4, using soldiers wearing Santa Claus outfits on one Christmas Eve to shoot 150 political opponents inside a stadium. 5, burying 26 political opponents up to the neck and unleashing red ants to eat them up to death. It is estimated that Nguema killed more than 100,000 people in a country whose population was less than 1 million at the time. By the time he was overthrown and assassinated by his nephew, 1/3 of the country was living in exile.